thank you all, both for your service to the state and for your interest in this project. We're really excited to be able to report on our grant. My main message here today is to tell you that small grants can make a really big difference. We were the bucket one, a little bucket, but we think we've gotten some really great results and we're very excited by it. With our Working Lands funds, we built the custom slaughter facility that is key to the overall success of our farming project. So the Vermont Goat Collaborative is a community-based project that supports new American farmers to raise goat meat in the greater Burlington area. And when I talk about new Americans here, what I'm really talking about is recently arrived refugees to the country and to Vermont. And this project grew out of discussions with the refugee community about their frustration at not being able to find affordable, locally produced goat meat. Further inquiries revealed that the equivalent of some 3,000 goats was being imported annually to Burlington annually to meet the immigrant demand. And for Vermont, concerned about maintaining a working landscape, this represented travesty on one hand, but a real opportunity on the other. So last year, after extensive feasibility research, the Vermont Goat Collaborative was able to access land in Colchester through the Vermont Land Trust and started a pilot project with Chuda Durali as the lead farmer. Chuda's family was expelled from Bhutan in Asia in an ethnic cleansing in 1990. They spent 19 years in the crowded refugee camp in Nepal before being relocated to Burlington in 2009. For the next 3 years, Chuda worked assiduously in a restaurant in Burlington, first as a dishwasher, working his way up to an assistant cook. But all that time he was dreaming and wondering if ever he could get back to farming again. And he tells me he never really imagined that that could happen, but it was always in the back of his head. The primary goal of the Goat Collaborative is to produce fresh local goat meat that is affordable to the new American community and meets both their taste preferences and their cultural needs. And these cultural needs include, in many cases, the ritual slaughter of an animal for religious ceremonies and community celebrations. So to address the affordability issue, we focused on reducing both the cost of raising and slaughtering the animals. And one way to reduce costs is to use wherever possible the byproducts of existing Vermont farms. And one of these, quote, waste products turns out to be baby boy goats, who are the byproducts of goat dairy operations. So in a win-win arrangement, we have set up arrangements with local farms, dairy farms, where we collect up those baby goats. We just got 24 last week, our first 24 for this season, and raise them to eating size on our Colchester pastures. Next, we looked at slaughter. USDA-approved facilities typically charge $35 or more just to slaughter the animal, and will also involve significant time and expense to just get to the slaughterhouse, especially for people of very limited means, often without transport. So instead, we resolved to build a custom facility at the farm. With this facility, consumers living in Greater Burlington could buy a goat at Pine Island Farm, slaughter it themselves at the state-approved facility in accordance with their own cultural traditions, and return home to prepare a meal, all within about a 5-mile radius. So when we're talking local, it's really local. 5 miles from farm to table. Our Working Lands grant of $10,868 allowed us to refit an old milk house as a custom slaughter room. Now, to be fair, we did also, we were able to access a Best Management Practices grant from the Department of Agriculture, which enabled us to do the wastewater system, because for $10,868, we couldn't have done the whole thing. Built by volunteer labor from the community over many, many weekends last summer, the slaughter room completes our farm-to-table objective and gives the whole project coherence. In a word, none of what we've accomplished in the past year would have been possible without the slaughter room and concomitantly by the Working Lands grant that we got. If we look at our pilot year in numbers, we collected goat bucklings from 3 goat dairy farms last year. That was Fat Toad, Boston Post, and Blue Ledge, and expect to partner with at least 2 additional farms this year. Having a reliable, humane, and efficient way of disposing of bucklings has relieved a significant burden for these farms. And they are so grateful that they don't have to knock these baby goats over the head at a few days old, and instead have a loving farm that comes to collect them. Chuda, who owns and manages his own goat herd, so that's our Bhutanese goat raiser, grossed $20,000 in sales, which will allow him to be fully self-sufficient this year. and pay for all the feed and other inputs as needed to keep his operation going. This past fall, more than 100 families from a dozen different nationalities came to buy and custom slaughter 117 goats at the farm. And I would add that some of those were collected from Shirley's farm as goats that she wanted to sell to the immigrant community, and we were a good way for her to do that. As one Bhutanese grandma told us when she came to participate in the harvest, and I quote, "This is so much more than meat. This is passing traditions down to our grandchildren." End of quote. We will be bringing on an additional farm family next month when a Rwandan family receives its first goats. We anticipate that a third family will join in 2015, with production reaching 300 to 360 goats once we go to scale. This should represent $70,000 of annual revenue to Vermont that would have previously been exported out of state or to Australia. Numbers are important, and we think that these figures will help you understand the very real and palpable investment that an $11,000 grant can have. But for the people we are working with, the impact is so much greater than what numbers can capture. Nearly all these refugee families were deeply connected to their own working landscapes in Bhutan, Burma, Somalia, Congo, Rwanda, before their lives were brutally disrupted. Arriving in Vermont, most are settled in dense urban neighborhoods, grateful to have jobs to be sure, but working long hours, sorting, recycling, or cleaning hotel rooms. For many, rural Vermont was as far away from downtown Winooski or Burlington's Old North End as the verdant forests of northern Burma or the lush hillsides of southern Bhutan. This sentiment was captured by a young Congolese man who found his way to the farm on a warm July day as the clouds hovered over Mount Mansfield in the distance. "You know," he said, "ever since I came to this country, people have been telling me how beautiful Vermont is, but I never saw it. Today, I finally understand what they're talking about." We are grateful to the Working Lands Enterprise Fund and to this committee who supported that for financing the Pine Island Community Slaughter Room that is bringing fresh goat meat to people's tables, allowing people to maintain their cultural traditions, and helping new Americans reconnect to the land as they make Vermont home. And we sincerely hope that you will continue and expand this innovative program going forward. We know that all farms are not like our farms, but all small farms have something special about them. Thank you. I welcome your questions.
What a great story.